Then on Sports Central, we go for our next team prediction of this offseason, and it's going to be over Georgia Tech, a team that went 5-7 overall in the 2022 season. Overall, I mean, this is a team that with as low of expectations as they had heading into 2022, overall not a bad season and something to build on. About this team being 2023, and what can we expect out of the Yellow Jackets in the 2023 season? That's what we'll be talking about here today. We'll be analyzing this team and predict their schedule game by game in this video. Let's get started with a quick recap of 2022. Once again, the record was 5-7. This team lost to Clemson there on the Monday night of week 1. 41-10 was the final, and I mean, if you remember that first half, this team kept it close against Clemson at first, and we were thinking, could Georgia Tech be good this season? But those hopes were kind of shut down in the second half as Clemson rolled to that win. But came back the next week, beat Western Carolina, lost Ole Miss and UCF, then beat Pitt on the road, also beat Duke in overtime. I mean, those were two really nice wins there. I mean, Pitt on the road, a team that was in a New Year's Six bowl game previously, and I mean, that was a nice win. And even Duke last season. I mean, Duke last year came around, and I mean, that turned out to be a really nice win there. And then he lost to Virginia 16-9. That was just a tough loss there to the Cavaliers, and lost to Florida State 41-16. But bounced back, beat Virginia Tech on the road by 1, lost to Miami 35-14. Beat North Carolina on the road 21-17. A nice win there as well, and then lost to Georgia to finish out the season. I mean, so you look at the 5 wins this team had. In each of those 5 wins, this team showed potential. I mean, the Pitt win on the road was impressive. The Duke win was impressive. Especially the North Carolina win going on the road there and beating them was impressive. So it was just some of those losses that this team took last year were definitely disappointing and confusing. I mean, the Virginia loss, that was just a brutal one. Florida State on the road got beat up there, and then against Miami as well. So a bit inconsistent this team was last season, but definitely showed potential. And with that, let's take a look into 2023 now with your returning production, your roster preview. Jeff Sims is transferring out. So a long-time starting quarterback for this team. He's off to Nebraska. And it's on to either Jeff Pyron or Zach Gibson. We've got both of them in the quarterback situation. Same with Haynes King, who is coming in from Texas A&M. Played a decent amount for Texas A&M last season. So, I mean, this quarterback situation is definitely interesting. We got quite a battle here. 3 quarterbacks that really are around the same level. I do think, well, the way it sounds, Zach Pyron is probably going to start this season, but we're probably going to see all 3 quarterbacks in at some point this year, and so we'll see if we can see a standout as well. If they're going to be a standout in the quarterback situation, if we see one primary starter this upcoming season, I mean, that really, I think, shows a lot of potential for this offense. I mean, as of right now, there's not a big standout in the quarterback situation. Maybe there will be one as we progress through the upcoming season, but Hassan Hall's gone, the top running back for this team. Dante Smith is coming back, though. I mean, both running backs were kind of around the same level last year. Hassan Hall had the most yards. Dante Smith had the most touchdowns, so I'm not really too concerned about that. But the receiving core, though, Nate McCollum's gone, Malachi Carter's gone. Same with E.J. Jenkins. So this team does lose the top 3 receivers from last season. Malik Rutherford's coming back, the 4th wideout for this team. And I mean, so you got him coming back, but you do lose your top 3, which is a concern for me. Good thing is you do bring in a few receivers from the transfer portal, which definitely could have an impact in the future. But you lose 2 on the O-line, 2 on the D-line, 1 linebacker, and then 2 in the secondary. So defensively, not terrible. But you definitely do lose a few key players there as well. Transfer portal and recruiting now. Jeff Sims off to Nebraska. And same with Tysoon Palmachan. He is leaving for UMass. But you got Haynes King coming in from Texas A&M. Once again, he is listed as the quarterback 2 on the depth chart right now. Travion Cooley is coming in from Louisville. Running back Nate McCollum is off to North Carolina. Dominic Blaylock is coming in from Georgia. So you got him coming in, who is expected to be a starter in 2023. Same with Brett Seether, tight end, coming in also from Georgia. Chase Lane is coming in from Texas A&M, a receiver from last season. Christian Leary also coming in from Alabama. Akello Stone, defensive lineman, is off to Ole Miss. You bring in Etanosa Rubin from Clemson. You also bring in Braylon Oliver from Minnesota, and then a couple of losses here. Zamari Walton and Derek Allen. Recruiting wise, 67th in the country, 12th in the ACC, got 19 3-stars coming in. So, I mean, that does put you third to last in the ACC. Recruiting could be better, but I still think there's optimism for the future for this team. I've got them at a 6 out of 10 on the future forecast meter. I mean, you got to consider, though, I mean, it wasn't too long ago this team was in a bowl game every year. I mean, from 97 to 2014, this team was in a bowl game every year. Since then, they've only been to 2. And those 2 years were 2016 and 2018. And I mean, what we do know is this is a team that can have sustained success and they can be consistent. I mean, they were 11 wins in 2014, and since then it's just been downhill. And I mean, I think this is a team that's in a position where they can have success. It's just been a bumpy last few years. But I do think there's still optimism for this team. You just got to consider, though, I mean, if they can do it from 97 to 2014, go to a bowl game every single year, I mean, they can have success in the future. And so I do think there's definitely optimism for this team. But with that, let's take a look into 2023 with your schedule now. So you got Louisville in a neutral location, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, a big game there at Louisville next season. Should be a pretty solid team. Then SC State there in week 2. Ole Miss on the road, that'll be a tough one. Then Wake Forest on the road. Got Bowling Green at home, Miami on the road. Then nearby, you got Boston College at home, North Carolina at home, and then Virginia and Clemson on the road back-to-back weeks, and then Syracuse and Georgia both at home to finish out the regular season. So, I mean, it's a challenging schedule for Georgia Tech. I know that this team is trying to get back on track, and it's going to be tough for this team having as tough of a schedule as they do. This is probably one of the tougher ones in the ACC, taking on both Ole Miss and Georgia in your non-conference schedule, 2 of the top teams in the SEC, and let alone Georgia, who's an absolute powerhouse right now. So it's going to be a challenge for this team as far as the schedule goes. But looking at September, I do think he beat Louisville there in week 1, which, I mean, they're expected to be halfway decent. So I do think that's a nice win there against them in Jeff Brom's debut as head coach. That'd be a huge win. And then SC State, I do think you beat them. Easy win there. So you're 2-0 to start the season. Then Ole Miss and Wake Forest, 2 tough road games here. I do think you lose both. Ole Miss is going to be tough. Wake Forest is a beatable team, I think, this season. No more Sam Hartman. They should kind of fall off a bit, but I do think you drop that one still. So you're 2-2 heading into the Bowling Green matchup. You beat them, no problem. Miami on the road should be a challenge. I do think the Hurricanes could be a contender in the conference next season. Boston College, you get a nice win there. Then North Carolina, this is a winnable game here. You went to Chapel Hill last season, beat them, and I do think they beat you this season. They should be a pretty solid team. Offensively, they're going to be tough. So I do think you drop that one. So you're 4-4 heading into November. Virginia, another winnable game here. I do think you drop that one, though. Clemson on the road. They're going to be a national contender once again, I think, this season. And Syracuse at home, Georgia at home. I do think you drop that one to Georgia for sure, but you beat Syracuse, so that puts you at 5-7 overall this season. And I mean, I will say this though, there is upside for this team. I do think they are very much a team able to make it back to a bowl game, but I mean, there is a lot of uncertainty still right now and a lot of inexperience. I think the future is still I think it's still positive for this team, but 2023, I just don't think this is Georgia Tech's year quite yet. Ceiling 7-5, floor is 3-9. Once again, I do think, I mean, the Louisville win is definitely a huge one there. Even the Syracuse one would be impressive. I mean, but otherwise, it is a brutal schedule. I think Virginia is probably the most winnable out of the losses I have you taking. Wake Forest is also a winnable game there, but otherwise, it's just tough. Ole Miss, Miami, North Carolina, Clemson, Georgia, all teams that could be top 15 teams next season. So, I mean, it's going to be a challenge for this team. I do think there's upside here for this team, but as of now, I've got 7-5 for the ceiling, 3-9 for the floor, and 5-7 for what I'm expecting for this team. But with that, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this team in 2023, and what do you think the future looks like for this team? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.